Love podcasts, hate nonsense. The Politics Joe podcast over Santina.
What's that? Why?
You are not in a position to be adjudicating on whether or not the intro is appropriate, madam.
Why?
You chickened out.
Well, that's because I hate podcasts.
And more sedate, chilled. It's low key. It's like it's dressed down Wednesday, you know. No Ed.
It is a bit dressed down Wednesday, isn't it?
No Ed. I've actually dressed up because my t-shirt's too noisy for the cameras.
Yeah.
So I'm sat here in a jacket.
Yeah, it's like the t-shirt you were wearing is like what you would wear for a paparazzi shot so that it would offset your face.
Yeah, like the cars that have those camo wraps on them so that when you take a photo you can't distinguish the outline of the car.
Exactly. You got pulled over earlier, didn't you, by a traffic cop?
It's why I go out in my Mr. Tickly costume whenever I'm out in public. So the paps can't see my outline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're on your Harley Davidson.
Yes.
That's how you get here, isn't it?
That is how I get here, yeah. I've always entertained a slight fantasy of getting like a Vespa, a little moped or something and just, bimming it around London. Because those guys, they get where they need to be in record quick time.
That is my dad.
He's got one.
He's got a little red Vespa and he zips around town like it's no one's business. He got it specifically for the football.
Nice.
So that he could get to away games around London quick.
I rate that.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager, I actually started a failed business renovating mopeds.
Yeah?
Yeah. Successfully made up one motocross bike, made a 1,000% profit on that one.
Wow.
My mate sold it to me for 30 quid and we sold it for 300, so happy days.
That's pretty good, that, no?
Yeah, that's 1,000%, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah, so that was good. And then we reinvested that cash into a Mobilette, 1956 Mobilette, which we couldn't figure out how to fix. And then the business failed.
You have to take it to the mechanic.
Well, no, because the whole business model was that we would fix it ourselves.
What you could do, though, is like with Serco, right? Like that kind
outsource
of model.
It. Yeah. Get some guys in on 0 hours contracts. Yeah. Probably would have fallen down at the fact that I think I was 15, so I wasn't in a position to put anyone on any kind of contract. But
right.
If we'd have taken it to a mechanic, we obviously would have fallen foul of the fact that we would no longer make a profit because the mechanic would require paying. Right. So it fell down there.
Well,
but we started.
There's always time. But then you had your successful laughing gas business.
That was successful. It's a great. Have I spoken? I must. That's why you're asking me. I've spoken about it before.
You have done it before in here, but
great little racket. Sell the tickets to the nightclub, host the prees, sell the tickets at the prees, sell laughing gas at the prees. Fucking job done.
Yeah.
You got like 200 quid in your back pocket at that point.
That's big money.
Dear reader, this is dear listener, this is pre Liz Truss as well. So that was when 200 quid was worth something.
Yeah. When it was 200
quid. You
fucking
put that down on a house.
And where you were as well.
2 up, 2 down with 200 quid in 2010.
You were in Cardiff as well, so you were...
That was a long way, my friend. My student rent, final year of uni, and don't get me wrong, it was 3 nightclub promoters in a house. So we weren't scrimping, all right? This isn't like fucking Black Mold. This was a very nice flat.
Right.
£270 a month.
What?
Each, don't get me wrong, each.
That's crazy.
That's how much we paid. And that was expensive. Was it? Yeah.
Mine was quite a bit because I was at Sussex, so it was I think it was £650.
Oh.
But I worked at Waitrose, didn't I, as a delivery driver. I was making cash.
Time and a half on a Sunday?
Yeah, and also like before 7 o'clock, time and a half.
Waitrose was the job that everyone in my area wanted.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it. So I was at Mackey's. But everyone wanted Waitrose.
Yeah.
Time and a half on a Sunday. And I think was it maybe even triple on like Easter and Christmas and...
I think I never worked Easter because of the Catholic in me. So that's my right
the reason,
to
was it?
No, truly, because
really?
no, my parents are very serious about us being at home for Catholic holidays.
So what do you do on Easter?
Go to church.
For all 4 days?
Yeah. 5, pal, because you do Maundy Thursday.
Sounds rotten.
Maundy Thursday, you go and you wash the other parishioners' feet.
That sounds like a good time.
As a former altar server, that was a job of mine.
Did you?
Sean and I had a conversation about this the other day, actually, because we were saying that I was like, well, I never got bothered as an altar server. And he pointed out that I wouldn't have been to their taste.
Jeez. Oh, that's good, that.
But we're going to have the next drinking thing that we do with the podcast. We're going to have altar wine because we found a supplier.
Okay. What makes it altar wine?
Well, but presumably it's not blessed yet, so it's not quite the blood, but...
It hasn't yet taken on the form of Christ's blood.
Yeah. It's just wine right now. It's not body.
Right. So that makes it okay. Is it weaker?
No, but
kids take the wine at communion.
It's only meant to touch your lips. You're not meant to drink it.
You're not meant to drink it?
No. It's just you just touch your lips with it.
What's the point?
Well, because excuse me. Sorry.
So, one doesn't actually imbibe the body of Christ.
Yeah.
One simply kisses it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you think it's
bit
silly?
All of Catholic is a bit. It's ritual, isn't it? And yeah, you're just meant to have a little taste of the body.
Not the full thing.
Not the full thing. Yeah. First clip?
Yeah, roll it, yeah.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's had quite a week. From endlessly fighting with his own MPs to collapsing in laughter when he was asked by a member of the public about NHS waiting lists. So I was glad to hear that he managed to take some time off.
Can I just say, I wanted to the Prime Minister, I'm certainly going to hear the Leader of the Opposition. Those people who don't want to hear, they can certainly leave, because that's how it's going to be, so get it in order. Some of you are wanting to catch my eye again. It's not a good way to do it.
Mr. Speaker, I love this quaint tradition where the more they slag him off behind his back, the later they cheer in here. Keep it going.
And also, for this side, you can have a joint cup of tea. Come on.
Mr. Speaker, I was glad to see that he managed to get some time off yesterday afternoon to kick back, relax, and accidentally record a candid video for Nigel Farage. The only thing missing from that punishing schedule is any sort of governing or leadership. So was he surprised to see one of his own MPs say that he doesn't get what Britain needs and he's not listening to what people want?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about what Britain needs, what Britain wants, what Britain values. This from a man who takes the knee, Mr. Speaker, who wanted to abolish the monarchy, who still doesn't know what a woman is, and who just this week, one of his front benchers said that they back teaching divisive white privilege in our schools, Mr. Speaker. Looking at his record, it's crystal clear which one of us doesn't get Britain's values.
Ava, what was your analysis of Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak's first little backwards and forwards there?
Well, it was an odd one for Starmer because he didn't seem to have a one line of questioning. The main impetus or the piece of meat was Rishi Sunak's failing policy on nurseries, which was meant to be like the big bastion of his of Jeremy Hunt's last budget. He was going to supply free childcare for people who want to go to work, and that is now falling through because nurseries are closing and they haven't allocated enough funding. There's about £140 million black hole in the funding,
which some of the people that run those nurseries did point out at the time. They did point that out at the time, but
but what would they know?
Yeah, what would they know? What would they know? Nothing. That's why we get them to look after our children.
But so Starmer was quite all over the place today with his criticism of Rishi Sunak, which you could argue is quite emblematic of Rishi Sunak's party and his own policies.
Great job.
So he went in on the nurseries. He went in on general Conservative failure with NHS waiting lists and cost of living crisis. But he also went in on the tumult of his party. So Simon Clarke, who wrote that piece yesterday in The Telegraph,
certainly did,
calling for a new Prime Minister, he also went in on that.
Now, I don't want to retread an Ed Campbell bit because he's not here to do it himself. So maybe that would justify it. Nonetheless, does Simon Clarke fall into the Mark Francois category of inept, irrelevant Tory MP that we should be paying no attention to and like putting them on this pedestal of like, Simon Clarke has made an intervention. Simon Clarke has called on the Prime Minister to resign. And in actual fact, Simon Clarke is just a very tall man who was put in the cabinet by Boris Johnson to humiliate Rishi Sunak in photos. Should we be taking what
That's
he's...
true. That is.
No,
yeah.
no, I know it sounds like a joke, but
Yeah.
it is true. Should we, when he says the Prime Minister must resign, do we listen to him? Because, so that's why he was in Boris Johnson's cabinet. Then he was in Liz Truss's cabinet, which I think tells you all you need to know about the judgment of the man.
Yeah, very good.
A genius. And actually, by the way, very closely allied with Liz Truss, right? Because he was going to be at PopCon. Did you get your tickets to PopCon this year?
I didn't apply, but I do think that Ed Campbell applied.
Yeah, it was tough. It's always tough in the roulette, in the lottery for those tickets. But I'm hoping for next year. Going to get a group of 6 together. We'll make a little spreadsheet. Hopefully, we'll get our tickets to PopCon.
Maybe you'll get a table.
How much do you think a table at PopCon costs?
Well, at normal Conservative events, if you pay enough for a table, you do get a junior minister will join your table.
You might
with
get a little Robert Jenrick sat next to you, mightn't you?
Yeah, you might get a little bottle of House of Commons wine.
You might be able to have a little whisper in Robert Jenrick's ear about a little planning development you got going on. Maybe you could do that.
What was I going to say?
You tell me.
It just completely went out of my mind. Oh yeah, sorry.
Is he serious?
Yes,
Should we be treating Simon Clarke seriously, or should we be doing our Ed Campbell bit and being like, he is deserving of our contempt?
I thought Ed Campbell's little bit was very good, actually.
I like that we keep calling it his little bit.
His little
it's like
bit.
quite patronising.
I know it is, isn't
He
it?
did his little thing.
Yeah. But Simon Clarke isn't typically viewed as a head case or a crank. He is leading the next generation of Tories, which is another smaller faction that is in the Conservative Party. He's very strong on housing policy, and actually a lot of people, commentators and political journalists, have been looking to him to sort of see him as the kind of the arbiter of that cohort of Tory MPs that believe in what Suella Braverman has to say, but would like to do it more pragmatically than she would like to deliver it. Does that make sense?
Yes, okay, I get you. And is PopCon not yet one of the 5 families,
No.
but hoping to become the 6th family?
Those
They're the upstarts. In the gangster film of this, they turn up about 2 hours in, ready to sort of flip the whole thing on its head. But
I think they're the dance number.
right, okay. An abortive coup by the PopCons maybe, and they get sort of put down by Sonny Corleone or something like that.
You know, like in a good romantic comedy when they're doing them. I have on good authority that you do enjoy a rom-com.
Who's bloody told you that?
So I think you.
No! I watch The Holiday and Love Actually at Christmas, and that's it.
Right, okay.
But I do watch them both every year.
Proof in the pudding. In a good romantic comedy, there'll be a moment when the female protagonist decides that she needs to have a makeover. And so she'll go and there'll be like it might be like an Atomic Kitten song, something like that. And she'll try on a few new outfits and she'll get a new haircut. And then we'll present the new version of themselves.
Sounds glam.
That to me is PopCon.
Nice. I think I understand the bit.
Yeah. And so it's like The Tide is High is playing.
Okay. Liz Truss getting like a new bob.
Yeah.
Changing out her, what's the fucking BDSM necklace?
She's not changing that. That's on her official prime ministerial photo.
Sorry, yeah, no, the whole point of that is that you never take it off,
Yeah.
right? What's it called?
Like it's like a sub thing, isn't it?
Yeah, no,
But
I
what
believe
is
it is. But I can't remember what it's called.
I can't believe that
should know this.
not enough commentary goes on that.
It's prime time. Really, it's the only thing we should be talking about. It's right in PoliticsJOE's Q zone because it
Yes.
combines Liz Truss and BDSM. You should know what it is called.
Get Megara Fury on the phone.
I could bell her actually. I should drop her a DM whilst we're doing this. She's probably too busy stamping on someone's bollocks to reply to me. I'll get her now.
But that is exactly what that necklace is. And it's peculiar that not enough time gets given to it.
Sorry, can you just keep riffing for a second?
I can keep riffing. Starmer delivered a pretty killer line today, actually, which was... so he was talking about how in 2008 he was the director of public prosecutions and he was putting away terrorists and he was doing, I suppose, admirable work. And on the flip side, he was pointing out that Rishi Sunak, who worked for Goldman Sachs at the time, was actually should get the line because it's fantastic. He said he was making millions betting on the misery of working people during the financial crisis. That kind of gives you an idea of the sort of bloody battle that we're probably going to have in the upcoming election.
Yeah, Sunak's response was he did the whole he took the knee. He did the whole he took the knee, he doesn't know what a woman is. And there was something sandwiched between those two things, but I can't quite remember what it was, but nonetheless, he just went full-throated culture war. Just full send.
Full-throated. So we're really going right in now with the language, yeah?
We're going in dry with the
We
language.
get
That could be in reference to anything. That might not.
Megara?
No, it's best for Britain.
Well,
The duality of man. Best for Britain noties on the timeline. BDSM mistress in my DMs.
yeah. Quite right.
Mistress? No.
I think so.
Is that no? That's not the correct term. Dominatrix.
Dominatrix.
Please.
I think she
get
goes
the
by-
terminology right.
She does a bit of mistressing, doesn't she, though, as well?
I couldn't possibly say. I believe it's patient confidentiality.
We'd have to wait for Ed to come back to clarify
To find out,
on
yeah,
what
we
was
need him
what's
to tell us
actually
about what that
involved
is.
in there.
Look, I saw a few people saying this feels like full on pre-general election PMQs. It felt like that. It felt like, I don't know, maybe we're getting warmed up the last couple of weeks and they're really going for each other now. It's hotting up.
So Starmer, of course, earlier this week gave a big speech about the culture war and about the war on woke, and he talked about how the war on woke was what's the word? It was basically making light of like our cultural institutions that are really important, so like the National Trust and the RNLI. Rishi Sunak today proved that Starmer is correct, that the Conservatives, all they really care about is rhetoric and narrative, and there's not a lot of substance to their arguments. I mean, to come back at him and say, well, this man took the knee in response to people can't afford their bills is sort of proof in the pudding there, right?
Yeah, completely. I also, it wasn't too long ago that Tory politicians wouldn't outright condemn the taking of the knee, right? Because when it first happened, and the England fans, not the England fans, I can't remember, I think it was Millwall, and maybe, I'm not going to say it because whoever their fans will be pissed off. And some people at one of the England games, they booed, right? And they got fucking pilloried, like literally pilloried by everyone. Here she is, Megara's in the DMs. What she have to say? It's a photo.
What's on the photo, Ollie?
It's a photo of Liz Truss. Everyone stand down.
Okay.
She sent me a picture of Liz Truss. It's a BDSM thing. No, she's going to come back to me now. Anyway, I'll let you know what she says. It's not a flattering photo of Liz Truss.
No, but it has got the necklace.
It has got the
question.
necklace in. Yeah, so we'll find out. She's typing.
She's typing right now. I like to think that she's in the middle. She's probably coordinated this into whatever act she's carrying.
Shall I ask her what you're up to?
Yeah. She's made it part of the play.
The amount of time it's taking her to type, I imagine she's doing it one-handed.
Yeah. Or with her nose.
With someone else's nose.
Let's talk a little bit about the knee.
Yeah, sorry. So she basically those fans booed, and the only people, I think it was basically your hard right gobshites on GB News and the right wing contributors that are invited onto shows like Vine and others. They were basically the only people who were prepared to go full send against it. Okay, she says it's not a slave collar or a chastity thing. We tend to wear keys on a chain for chastity, but you could probably stretch to it being a submissive collar with an O-ring to attach a leash to. Cry laugh emoji.
Okay, well, that's the authority.
She would know. She would know.
On the football, the ultimate attack line is, as you said, it was only like right gobshits who were really quite upset about it. I mean, Gito Harry, who went on to be the number 10 spokesperson
for Boris Johnson. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he took the knee himself on GB News.
And never came back. Was never invited back on after taking the knee on GB News.
Yes, and then I would suppose.
Sorry, can we just stick with that for a second? He was like the whole thing. He goes like, "Look, it's not a big deal. Like you can just do it. You can just look. Here I am. I'm taking the knee. Mm-hmm. You will never step foot in this office again,
yeah.
Gito Hari. You sick fuck."
It made headline news.
It did.
What's so embarrassing about it is the weird, uncomfortable silence that followed it. So he'd taken out the big build-up, he'd taken the action of the knee, and then it was just people sitting on a sofa looking at him on one knee. It was very embarrassing. Not for him, I just mean like the general atmosphere.
Yeah, so that is a big departure, the way he's just openly attacking him now, being like, ha ha, you took the fucking knee.
Yeah.
Have we forgotten, like, Tyrone Mings rinsing Priti Patel on Twitter? Like, have we forgotten all of this stuff? Like, it's literally, Gareth Southgate does, like, a letter to England, right? The huge cultural moment. And basically everyone goes, yeah, I tell you what, if a large portion of the England football team happen to be young black men, and they feel quite sincerely about racialised police violence, and they decide that they want to take the knee to draw attention to that, okay, fine. And in the space of less than 3 years, it's, you fucking cunt. You took the knee. Have we forgotten? Have we forgotten why they were doing that? Or are we just openly able to say, oh no, those young black lads that care about racism, fucking idiots?
Well, clearly, because a couple of days ago, game play was even called off because there were monkey noises being made at the goalkeeper. So clearly we have forgotten about it.
Yeah. Sorry, it's just silly me.
We simply don't care.
We don't care.
But anyway, it's all culture war.
Absolutely.
So Starmer also went on the big line today about 3,000 steel workers being made redundant in Port Talbot.
Shall we hear the clip?
We can hear the clip.
Roll the clip.
Mr. Speaker, in 2008, I was the Director of Public Prosecution, putting terrorists and murderers in jail. He was making millions betting on the misery of working people during the financial crisis. And we've seen this story time and time again with this lot. Party first, country second, safely ensconced in Westminster, they get down to the real business of fighting each other to death. The country forced to endure their division and chaos. The longest episode of EastEnders ever put to film. Meanwhile, this week we discover that Britain is going to be the only major economy that no longer makes its own steel. That the government is handing out £500 million to make 3,000 steelworkers redundant. And that the parents of thousands are being told that his free childcare promise is nothing but a mirage. Isn't he embarrassed that the Tory party is yet again entirely focused on itself?
Mr. Speaker, yet more sniping from the sidelines. Yeah, you can see exactly why Hizb ut-Tahrir hired him in the first place. But he wants to talk about these things. Even his own party are now realising that he simply doesn't have a plan for this country, Mr. Speaker. The member for Dagenham and Raynham said it's difficult to identify the purpose of his leadership. And long-time celebrity backer Steve Coogan recently said he licks his finger, sticks it in the air, and just sees which way the wind is blowing. Even Labour Party know, Mr. Speaker, he's not a leader, he is a human weather vane.
It's not the sidelines, it's behind him that the fire's coming in, Mr. Speaker. And he can try and blame the Labour Party all he wants. The difference is, I've changed my party, he's bullied by his party. And has he found the time in his busy schedule to work out why thousands of parents are being told by their nurseries that they won't get free childcare that he promised them?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's see what his party is offering the country. It's quick, right? So we all know, Mr. Speaker, he doesn't have many ideas for our country.
I'm going to hear the Prime Minister.
Well, he doesn't have many, but one thing we do know, Mr. Speaker, is that...
You don't want to push it, do you? No.
We do know that he's committed to his 2030 decarbonisation promise, Mr. Speaker, which they say will cost £28 billion. But I was reading about it this week. He says he's changed the party. One of his team called it an albatross hanging around their neck. That might have been the Shadow Chancellor, maybe, Mr. Speaker. But he said they're doubling down on it. All this ahead of a crunch meeting, we're told this week, for them to work out how they're going to pay for it. I can save them some time because we all know the answer. Higher taxes for the British people.
Mr. Speaker, there's only one party that crashed the economy. They're sitting right there, right there.
Tell me about Port Talbot, Alba.
Alba.
Ava.
Alba Alapa.
The Alba party.
Yeah. Sorry, I just have to say, this one time when I interviewed Alex Salmond for this very channel, he gave me this big, long speech before we started interviewing that it was Alapa. Please, can you call it Alapa? This is why it's called Alapa. I go, all right, Alex Salmond, thank you for joining me from the Alba party. And he goes, oh, it's the Alba party. Like, he mugged me right off on camera. Anyway.
Do you think maybe it possibly served his interest as a Scottish nationalist to get you, the English journalist, to mispronounce the name so that he could correct you on camera?
Yes. But fuck you, it didn't make the edit.
The thing is, Ed tried to tell me the same thing.
Did he?
He did. When it first happened, I was like, look, everyone's making a deal out of this. How do I say it? And he was like, Alapa.
You know who's laughing?
Laura.
Would you do that to someone? Maybe.
If it was me, she would, yeah.
I think so.
How do you pronounce it?
I don't speak Gaelic, so I have no idea.
But then neither does Ed.
I think it's pretend.
So
I don't think it exists.
when has Ed ever been so...
Not like Ed to speak out on something that he's not necessarily completely across the detail of.
So Port Talbot. What?
Please.
Oh, is that a joke on me?
No, it's a joke on Ed.
Oh. Port Talbot.
He had some words to say about the... Never mind. Let's move on.
Speaking of things we're not quite across the detail of. Port Talbot, big steelworks in Wales. It's just south of Swansea. Huge town that's basically constructed around the steelworks. An Indian company owns it. They're now going to close off 2 of the furnaces because under the guise of it's going to make us more green, we're going to use recycled steel, we don't need the furnaces anymore. Rishi Sunak had given them £500 million to make sure the steelworks stayed open. Steelworks will stay open, but just with 3,000 less people working there, which basically means you're putting all of these people onto the dole. So we're going down there tomorrow to have a look at it.
I'm looking forward to the piece.
Looking forward to going, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's more than a story of industrial decline, I think. I think it ties into the broader geopolitics of it. I mean, well, we can just talk about this now, right? People are talking about maybe we'll need to have national conscription, right, to combat like the Russians when they inevitably invade, and
because it will be a ground invasion.
Yeah, of course, no, and we will fight them on the beaches.
Yeah,
we will.
We're all going to stand along the coast of Dover like they used to do at football matches with our arms linked.
Ava, the Russians will appear on the horizon, and as they near the shore, they will think that is what we are doing. But as they draw nearer, they will realise that every single freeborn English man and woman in this country is, in fact, taking a knee against racial injustice. And they will turn their aircraft carriers around. And they will tip their berets to us and say, "You have won the internet today,
That's
sir."
Very good. That was very funny.
I'm quite good. But no, look, if you want to... right, so 2024, it's a couple of things. Year of the election, right? More than half of the world's population is going to the polls this year. Also, the year of conflict. Before, I haven't got the most up-to-date data, so forgive me. Before October 7th, it was something like there were 183 ongoing conflicts in the world. That number will now obviously be higher because of Israel's war in Gaza and probably some other bits and pieces. 2024 is also defined by conflict. And as a result, everyone who was like, we are living through the end of history. Globalization is delivering not only peace, but prosperity. Happy days. And obviously then Vladimir Putin was like, nah. Mm-hmm. And we've gone, oh, maybe we should have a steel industry. That might be quite handy for producing things like armaments and battleships and such. Maybe we shouldn't have outsourced a lot of this to China and to India. Maybe, just maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know, spitballing here. I'd like to add one other thing to the conscription thing. It's so funny to me that like all of these right-wing blowhards who go like, we don't even sing Rule Britannia at the end of the proms anymore. This country's gone to pot. Mm-hmm. And then the conscription talk has begun and they're all tweeting being like, who would want to fight and die for this country? My man, pick a fucking side.
Yeah.
This is your... Martin Daubney, This should be your wet dream. You've got your opportunity. Go and die for Britannia.
I would quite like to just talk down feminism for one moment.
Please. Ava, you know the way to my heart. The floor is yours.
I would just like to say we were wrong. We can't do the job the way that men can. And I think it's best if I stay here.
Look, you got the vote. And it is
But look,
your equal right.
I don't need it.
Your equal right to fight and die.
Yeah.
Protecting Blighty from the Russians.
But as a military-aged man,
yes.
it'll be you that...
Let's not kid ourselves. We'll be fucking straight into the propaganda division.
I think we would be really good at that.
Do you?
Yeah.
We full pivot. And we call up Rishi Sunak and we say, look, I know we've spent the last 6 years relentlessly going viral, traducing you and your government.
But how nice was that font on that graphic?
Yeah. But Commander-in-Chief, I wish to offer our services to send those fucking commies back to Russia. Allow me the honour of propagandizing on behalf of your military.
We are the commies, though, aren't we?
And we would get signed up into the infantry and be the first over the top. That's how he would take
No,
revenge.
Stop that.
He would. He'd be like,
he would do that. I thought you meant you were offering that we would do that.
No, he'd be like, yeah, sure. He'd be like, yeah, great. Take your GH5.
Yeah.
The trenches are... Do what you like. And we'd get there and they'd be like, you guys, you're over the top first.
Yeah.
And then...
we were sort of looking at the work from home position.
I'm very much a parliamentlive.tv kind of guy.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
This is a bit meta for the audience, I think. Closing remarks from Megara Fury. I'd happily drag Liz Truss about on a leash. 3 cry laughing emojis. Megara, thank you for that.
I think I've got some messages from her too. Oh, she's just replied to the conscription tweet. We could team up as drill sergeants. You yell, and I'll stomp their balls for not doing full push-ups.
I told you she loves stomping on people's balls.
And then, in reply to that, one of Megara's prisoners, Subs, has said, "Sounds fire." She's got a great business up there, hasn't she?
She has, yeah. Doing the Lord's work. Okay, shall we go straight to Miriam Cates? We're running out of time.
Yeah.
Miriam Cates with what has to be described as possibly, I think this is an all-time PMQs contribution from Miriam Cates. Miriam Cates, would we call her a capo? Would we call her the godfather of one of the 5 families? The Natcons.
I don't think she'd want that position because she might be a member of parliament, but she doesn't want to be, she's the pro-natalist, right? So she's like, during World War II, like when they put out the propaganda and there was like a very beautiful woman who was holding a baby. That's who she is.
And that's who you want to be when the Russians come.
That's who I've always been. And oh my God, I nearly called him Daddy Kruger. Danny Kruger.
That is what we should call him from now on. Come home, Daddy Kruger.
Danny Kruger is, of course, leading the faction, and she's...
As he should.
So they've got their little...
The father of the family.
They're the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within the 5 families, the Natcons are the nuclear family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how that's set up.
Anyway, so let's just listen to her, right? Shall we roll the clip? Roll the clip.
This morning, the press reported the tragic case of a 14-year-old girl who took her own life following horrific social media bullying, including on TikTok and Snapchat. Since 2010, across the English-speaking world, there's been a marked increase in poor teen mental health, teen suicide attempts, and children addicted to pornography. The United Kingdom has a strong tradition of legislating to protect children from serious threats to their safety and welfare. So does my right honourable friend agree with me that it's time to consider banning social media and perhaps even smartphones for under 16s?
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is absolutely right to highlight the impact of what happens online on our children, and that's why our Online Safety Act tackles both criminal activity online and protects children from harmful or inappropriate content such as bullying or the promotion of self-harm, accessing pornography, and also exposure to eating disorders. Ofcom are now rightly developing and consulting on the guidance and the codes of practices for how those platforms will meet their duties, and if they don't clean up their act, then Ofcom will be able to impose fines of up to 10% of global turnover on the social media firms.
Do you want to go first on this one? Shall I go first on this one?
Do you have things to say?
I have a lot to say about this.
Please,
Ava
Ollie,
Santina.
please.
Right. How fucking dumb is this woman? Right? I'm gonna do her. I'm gonna do her the service of treating her idea seriously, right? Because she's not the only one to suggest it. That there is a school of thought that. Okay, it's contested. The scholarship is contested about whether or not social media directly is contributing towards things like the spiraling rates of depression and anxiety, particularly among teenage girls. Someone like Jonathan Haidt writes a lot about this. Listeners may know he wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, and he's now intending to write, and is in the process of writing an upcoming book about the consequences of social media for teenagers. Some people, and by the way, his interpretation of, he's done it very transparently, very diligently, and there is some contestation about the extent to which the scholarship actually supports the idea that there's a causal relationship between social media use and anxiety and depression. That's the first thing to say, right? It's not necessarily a given. People that believe that that's the case, one of the things they do talk about is potentially introducing age gate filters to stop younger people from accessing social media. And it's one of many different ideas and solutions to how to address this. It's an incredibly complex thing to address. If you believe that social media is harming younger people, how on earth do you go about regulating it or controlling it because of the complexity gap that basically exists between their ever developing and often AI enhanced algorithms and content production? How on earth do you get something like the EU to legislate against that? Because by the time the fucking legislation has passed, the iteration of the algorithm that they were legislating against has changed 3 times and is now irrelevant. Right?
That's really important what you've just said.
Thank you, Ava. Back to Miriam Cates being fucking dumb. Just doing all of the good work there. No, right. So there's a digital literacy problem here, which is that people like Miriam Cates, like most of the people in Parliament, do not understand the thing that they are talking about. They only understand social media within the context of incels, within access to pornography, within there are drug dealers on Snapchat. They don't understand that social media is also a gateway to sex, music, comedy, social interaction, finding communities, hell, even drugs. And that's probably one of the reasons why they're less keen on it. Social media is a tool. How you use it, it's like a knife, right? A knife can do terrible things. You also would do a pretty poor job of producing a French onion soup without a nice one. Like, how you use it is entirely relevant.
French onion soup.
What? It's delicious. C'est délicieux.
Okay.
Mais non?
I don't know.
C'est mais oui.
Yes.
Okay, so there's that. So that's there, and these people who want to talk about prohibition, which is just, we all know, point to one thing that we've prohibited and it's made the situation better. Alcohol in the 1920s. Is that going to be, so in the 2020s, are we going to ban social media? Saying nothing for the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which gives children the right to freedom of expression. And by the way, at no point introduces a limit on, let's say, fucking parental permission. Let's say you have a kid who's gay, right? Or trans, or take your pick. And they grow up in an incredibly Christian environment. I'm going to go out and tell you that kid's not going to be very happy growing up in that environment. If they're told all of their life that what they are is wrong, that possibly what they are can be converted via therapy, that they would no longer be gay, that's going to be a deeply distressing and upsetting situation for that child. They may find a community on the internet where they are accepted for who they are, they find expression, and they're able to self-realize who they are and express their identity. You mean to tell me that 14-year-old kid, no Snapchat for you, son. Go to church, read the Bible. Like,
well, that is what she's saying in terms of gender dysphoria, right? They are quite pro.
Yeah, I mean, there's a further conversation to be had there. I just cannot get my head around the idiocy of suggesting that we ban it. Now, I know that there are some sensible people who suggest that possibly putting these age gates on is a way to stop this. I just don't think it's feasible. Like, we age gate alcohol for teenagers. I was going to say, go to a house party, you'll find they're drinking, but that makes me sound like a nonce.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, who bought all the alcohol, guys? Maybe it's the 30-year-old man stood in the corner. If you tell a teenager they can't access something, whether it's social media, alcohol, or tobacco, you can make damn sure they will find their way to it, and they will get their hands on it. It is this authoritarian style of, it's not just parenting, it's within our politics of saying this is bad, therefore we ban it, makes absolutely no sense to me. All you do is you drive it underground. Far better as a parent to communicate, open up a channel of communication with your child about things like digital literacy, about privacy, about understanding that someone who says something to the internet might not necessarily be the person that they're presenting. Those are all very important conversations that parents should be having.
Because they could just discover it themselves when they turn the age of 18, and then suddenly you've got what you do have at university, children who weren't allowed access to alcohol, who are mental.
It's open season, baby. It's fucking Rumspringer out there.
Yeah.
It's like spring break every single fucking day, right? And how about, here's an idea for Miriam Cates, how about you interrogate the fucking idea, why is it that these kids want to turn inward and find escapism online? What is it about their lives that they don't like in the real world? How about you do something about that? How about you do something about that than trying to ban fucking Snapchat?
Well, look, not to keep playing Miriam Cates advocate, but what she would say is, as a pro-natalist, she would say we need people meeting in real life again and making babies. And they're not doing it because they're all online watching porn.
Yeah.
And so they're spending too much time choking each other and not enough time inseminating.
They keep doing this thing called delayed orgasm and it means no one's getting inseminated.
They're learning tantric.
Okay. Right. Yeah. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that no one can afford to buy a house. Has absolutely nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. Just.
Yeah. Oh, it's good, though. Come on, let's do the white rhinos. Because this is the story that Miriam Cates can get behind.
Tell you who is possibly having a baby.
Yeah.
A fucking white rhino baby.
Yes.
Awooga!
Scientists have achieved the world's first IVF rhino pregnancy, offering hope for saving the northern white rhino from extinction. But the reason we chose to talk about this today was because of something you said earlier at the desk. You're a conservative.
Yes. Born and bred, dyed in the wool.
Explain that.
Card-carrying Tory. Right. So within the tradition of conservative thought, and particularly within the tradition of British conservative thought, looms large the spectre of a man called Roger Scruton. long may he rest. The reasons for which maybe
no, I think you mean like rest well or something, not long may he rest.
Oh yeah, that's like I'm glad he's dead.
Yeah.
Right. No, sorry, take that back. Rest in power, King.
Yeah.
I'm being glib. If you haven't read England in Elegy by Roger Scruton, where have you been? Like it's literally sort of the Bible of British conservative thought, one of the foundational texts. And in that, one of the key things for him, one of the key founding blocks of British conservatism is the literal landscape of England, right? It is the rolling hills, the countryside, and admittedly, it's a slightly idealized and enchanted and non-existent place. It's a utopia, but that actually is sort of kind of the point. And he would make the case that from British writers from Shakespeare through Blake to the modern day, that when they write about the fucking daffodils and those lovely clouds, when Shakespeare writes about Arden, that what they're writing about is it's this ongoing and deliberate process of enchanting the land and enchanting the landscape, so that whereas small-minded people might interpret those works as studies of place, they are in fact studies of home. And there's a very important distinction between those two things.
So you're telling me that this bloke just wrote a book on what is romanticism?
Yes. Yeah. No, obviously, it's one of that's a small part. It's a small part in like his very much broader analysis of like conservatism in Britain. Anyway,
he walked so Jonathan Coe could run.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you extrapolate that out more broadly into the natural world, and radical leftists, people like, I don't know, George Monbiot or Greta Thunberg, where the entire political idea around the environment is stop. Stop right there. Protect what we have. I'm going to use a very important word here. Conserve what we have. Because the natural conclusion of sort of radical left-wing thought, which is one of change and progress and possibly revolution, is very much not let's maintain the status quo. It is, we need change. And those people who believe that politically will actually very rarely believe that when it comes to the environment. Their position on the environment is one of, we must stop what we are doing right now, and in the grand scape of human history and the history of our planet, this is a fucking like wafer thin moment, right? We say, we must keep this moment. Despite the fact that all of the history of the natural world is one of remorseless change, right? There used to be these fucking 20-meter long reptiles that were storming across the mega continent of Pangaea. They're all extinct, right? There's been multiple mass extinction events. It's one of remorseless, constant churn. And actually, it's quite you would think that if those people were to extend their political beliefs to their environmental beliefs, they would end up in this fairly libertarian position of, well, fuck the white rhino. Because that's Darwinism, baby, you know? And in fact, for me, I'm at my most Tory when I'm talking about the environment, when I'm talking about beavers and sharks and the white rhino, because I want to keep all of these things as they are right here, right now. And it's a bit of a tension and a contradiction in my political beliefs.
Yes, it's not very New Labour of you.
No, very much so, no.
Yeah.
Have the white rhinos considered PFI?
Yeah.
Maybe that could resolve their infertility crisis.
Or joining Carrie Johnson's charity.
What's she up to these days?
Animal preservation.
Good Instagram. I like seeing Boris like out on a hike.
So do I. It's when's he starting on GB News?
It'll be like during the election, won't it?
The shortlist, the applications for Henley have closed.
Ooh.
Boris Johnson was thought he might parachute himself into Henley.
No, I think he's like, you know how the international leisure class will like winter in South Africa. You know, they'll be like, oh fuck, it's December. Get me to the Cape of Good Hope. Get me to Joburg, baby. Get me to Cape Town, or wherever, fucking Australia. And they let us see out their winters, and they come back with a lovely tan, and then it's summer in Kensington and New York. I've forgotten where I was going with this. What were we talking about?
Boris Johnson, Henley.
I think he's wintering.
Yeah.
I think he's going to let this fucking colostomy bag of a Tory party empty itself all over the electorate.
And then come back like he was asked to, like Churchill.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't
Like
saying
the
that he was
Messiah.
going to. That was just political commentators thought Henley.
And then Daddy Kruger
Yeah.
and a very fertile Miriam Cates
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah.
will roll away the stone,
Yeah.
and from it, our Lord and Saviour, Alexander de Pfeffel Johnson.
Yeah. Carrying some altar wine.
I think that's probably, I see that's probably his way back. He's probably in that, I think it has to be, again, bizarre contradiction, he's probably one of the more like sort of socially liberal Tories. That he could be the what would Daddy Kruger do if Daddy Johnson came back?
Daddy Kruger and Boris Johnson have very opposing views on the family and what it is to be a conservative.
Do you know what they both like? Power.
Right. You think that Kruger likes that?
All conservatives like power. Is their guiding principle, guiding philosophy.
I thought they just wanted to conserve.
And that. Conserving power. Conserving their
And
positions.
accrue power, I suppose.
Accrue, but there's no point in
But without
conserving if you
doing a
can't
lot.
accrue it. Yeah.
So you buy something, a shit heap, and then it accrues £250,000 on it through doing fuck all. That's what they want to do with power.
My good woman, you are now a Tory. Should we call it there?
Yes, please.
Ava Santina, always a pleasure, never a chore.
Right back at you, Ollie Dugmore.
Will we see everyone in the subreddit?
I hope so. It's been a bit quiet on there.
Yeah, it has gone a bit quiet.
But then it's probably because we put restrictions on there because to say things like, don't come on here and call me a slut. That's for Twitter.
I think they didn't know what to do with the Nunu chat.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. Because that episode was a roller coaster.
Yeah. You didn't like it?
No, I loved it. I can't believe you did the man milking, the man dairy without me.
Man dairy. Good shit.
We'll call it there then. We'll wrap it up.
See you next time.
See you on the next one. Goodbye.